get this going. So welcome to Randy Massengale, who I have known for just over, maybe 18 months now, I think, isn't it, Randy, since we first met on Dan Nicholson's CCA program. So that's the Certified Advisors program, I think. And I will give you a brief introduction to Randy, and then I'll let him say a little bit about himself. So Randy was a senior advisor to Bill Gates in the early days of InfoSpace, and described as a serial entrepreneur and philanthropist. And he's also a professor, and he, as I said, works with Dan on Dan Nicholson's CCA program, which is where I met him. And Randy and I worked together through that program, and then we've done some stuff together since. And what's the reason for having Randy here is, for me, he met me at a really interesting point in my life when I was already quite a way into my treatment. I think I was in the middle of my chemo, in full hairless mode, and sitting on this call with all these other people in our little Zoom boxes. So it was an interesting time to meet somebody who's then gone on to provide some really interesting insights to me. So, yeah, Randy, do you want to just say a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your story and how you've ended up doing what you're doing now?
Okay. Well, I've been working in the field of human resources and marketing for longer than I care to mention, but probably close to 45 years. And it's changed, it's morphed, it's done a lot of great things. But I will correct one thing, and that is I worked with Bill Gates at Microsoft when I worked there, not at InfoSpace. I did work at InfoSpace as a vice president, but at Microsoft. And one of the things that I learned in working with Bill Gates is that you had to have a very strong sense of self to work alongside Bill Gates, because he was going to challenge you fundamentally, irrespective of what your discipline was. He was going to challenge to see what he could get out of you. And that always stuck with me. Even 25 years later, it sticks with me. And so as I'm going through the different things that we've been through, you were in the first cohort of CCA, the Certainty Program. And I just recall you being a vibrant voice that I didn't know anything about, Jackie, other than we couldn't start the meeting. Now there's 17 or so people that are on a Zoom call, but we really couldn't start the meeting unless Jackie was in the building. And it wasn't because she tried to monopolize the conversation. She just had some poignant things to say. And every time she opened her mouth, something that really stuck with you, that made you think it was a little different than what you had been hearing in the cohort. And it really made things, it made it more exciting for both me as an instructor, as well as for the group in general, because you could say 3 words that could take the conversation in a totally different direction. And you just had that gift of being able to plant the seed and then just step back and watch it germinate and watch people morph it into something that really wasn't there before. And I was very surprised when I heard about your background, in both physical therapy and some of the things you've done before, that you had acquired those types of skills and those types of interactions. So I was pretty impressed with that. And that was the first cohort that we did with CCA, the Certainty Program, and we are now on the 4th cohort. So you were really a pioneer in how you approached it. And some days you weren't able to make it. And when those days came, it was like it was a balloon that they let the air out, just a deflated balloon in the room. And we realized that we couldn't have a robust conversation. We couldn't have a true cohort unless you were part of it. So I I thank you for that. And then after the cohort ended, you and I had struck a relationship that really enhanced not only the things that you were going through, but what I was going through as well. So it's been a symbiosis that has benefited both of us.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And I think what's really interesting, and when I reflected back on our relationship, and one of the things I was sort of making a note of preparing for this conversation, was that you can't see yourself, can you? And I've always been pretty self-aware of myself, and other people have said that, but you only see the world through your own eyes. And in those kind of situations, in those group situations, albeit it was on a Zoom course rather than in person, there's things in the way in which I would behave in that environment, and I always have in anything that I've done, in any formal study or in any workshops and things, that I never thought anything about, because it's just how I am. And asking questions, and we had a lot of discussion, didn't we, about people not asking questions and waiting until the next week, and that's just something that's always come really naturally to me. And I've often sat and looked out at things and wondered why doesn't everybody do things that way? And I think there's lots of things that you've said to me, and not just you but other people, but it's just that you only know what you see through your own eyes, and you don't know how that's necessarily different than other people. And so Dan and you talk about playing your game and being yourself and knowing yourself, and
well
go on.
Well, you just personify some of the things that we had in the course, never having taken the course. And so it was like you were an advanced student because you were able to be yourself throughout, while other people may have been posturing because they were new or they didn't know if they should say certain things or something like that. What Jackie would do is come on and say what was on her mind, okay? And it would come out so genuine that nobody really questioned it. They kind of took off on it and said, you've made a great point. And then they kept up with that. And that's something that I think if you look at what's the problem with most people, whether they are cancer survivors or whether they've been laid off at a job or something has changed, is that they get shaken to the core and then they're not themselves anymore. And what we try to say is, know yourself, know your enemy, and you can fight 100 battles without peril. Now that's from Sun Tzu in The Art of War. But that statement makes such a profound difference in how people address who they are and then how they appear in the group. And so when I saw that you had this self-awareness that I didn't know where it came from, and I didn't really even know that you were a cancer survivor until probably the third or fourth session.
Okay. Just thought I liked my hair short.
Yeah, I just thought you were kind of weird. But some of us like our hair short too. So it's like, all right. But once I got to know your backstory, that's when things really started to come together in terms of the unique perspective that you carry. That ability to relate to all types of people because you've gone through the gauntlet of human emotion and you're available to people to listen to what they're going through and then just make one or two strategic comments, okay, strategically placed comments, and it just draws it out of them. Whatever it is, it comes out. And it was beautiful to watch. And then once the the cohort, the seminars were over, then you and I started working together. And this was not only for your own development, but also the genesis of your book and where you wanted to take it and how you wanted to be presented. And you had some amazing times that you experienced with your family, with your health, with your business. I mean, if you had to stack any two of those things, okay, they would be more than anybody could take in a given year. And you stacked about four, I don't
Yeah.
know, five. I mean, every week you were coming up with it.
It certainly felt that way, that's for sure.
But the thing was, you handled it by knowing yourself and not taking your eyes off the prize that you initially started with. That prize was, I'm going to write this book. Okay. I'm going to get out what's inside of me. And that is amazing to have that kind of resolve when things are going around, when your children might have an issue, or you've got an issue with your business, or you got an issue with a spouse, any of those things. But you were able to stay the course, okay, and continue to, grow yourself and write your book, and now it's here. So I commend you for being the kind of resilient spirit that more of us need to be out here.
Well, thank you. And I think one of the things I've tried to do today, because today is the launch day, and obviously been building up for it and done a lot of work the last couple of weeks, and I've actually tried to really take a pause today and not actually do a huge amount, other than obviously checking Amazon just to see where I am on all the bestseller lists, which is a slow tick up. But talking about vanity metrics, when people talk about not wanting vanity metrics, selling a book on Amazon, that you can't help yourself but to see where you are. But to actually just take in and just absorb and actually enjoy having got there, because in the past, I think the big difference for me from the experience of going through everything and the timing of doing the CCA program and, doing it in the middle of my treatment, which probably seemed completely bonkers at the time, to some people, it gave me a focus for my week. And quite often it was on the same day, actually, as I had my chemo. So some weeks I turned up and I wasn't very well. But it just gave me that means of actually going, this is what I'm doing. And it gave me a bit of purpose. And also, everything that was going on for me at the time, it really helped to solidify all the things that had come before and where I was, and then gave me a means to sort of look forward. But in the past, what I would have done is I'd have been building up towards something, and then I'd get there and then I'd be like, boom, straight on to the next thing. And there'd be no pause to just sit back and actually go, look at this thing I've done. That's really cool. And I remember instinctively with my business, when we moved into a bigger property, and I had months and months and months of stress of, refurbing a very old building. And the day we moved in and we saw our first clients there, everyone's going, wow, this must be amazing. I just had no capacity to take it in, because I'd just been like head down, trying to, working in one place, building another one, then moving in there, and then straight in. And I just didn't ever really appreciate what I'd achieved in doing that. And I didn't want it to feel like that today. I wanted it to be like, this is really cool, and I'm just going to clear the decks and just enjoy the fact that I've actually done this thing. I've been, it's taken me, as it does, to write a book, from actually first putting pen to paper with it, 2 years. Although the last 6 months has just been, faffing about getting it finished and out there. And again, that's not something without the space. And in the book I talk about creating space to be myself, and I know you like to use the phrase about being yourself and keeping moving. And that phrase for me, it sort of came out from what you said, probably from all our conversations, but it just came out naturally when I was writing something. And it's almost like, for me, it's like a step before, because the being yourself and keeping moving, in order to be myself,
Ooh.
the thing I've had to do is to make some space in my life, rather than
Well,
jam packing every little minute with stuff, which is what I was very
that,
good at before.
that is very commendable, especially as you're dealing with your own mortality and dealing with familial issues. There's a very you say, well, what is the key? What is the secret? Okay, and we talk a lot about a lot of the Eastern philosophies, Sun Tzu and the Art of War, and know yourself, know your enemy. You can fight 100 battles without peril. And what I saw you do, even in the course of you giving the advice that you gave during the cohort, uh, you you demonstrated a greater knowledge of yourself, and it continued to grow. And if you can do that, and then you know what you didn't like, okay, then you can fight 100 battles without peril. And I saw you do that, and I said, okay, now Jackie's starting to hit full stride. But the thing that you did, and the thing that you do, and hopefully the thing that you teach that is different, is that when the next adversity comes, okay, you don't regress back to where you were. You stayed on your basic themes, and you continue to climb. And even when you got bad family news or health news or business news, yeah, you get a little down, but you don't stay down.
Mm.
And when you don't stay down, you can get up and fight again. And that's what I saw you do over the course of 20 weeks when we were doing the first cohort. And then after we started working together for over a year, just things started to really click for you. And I would bring you up as an example of perseverance, because I would show people what you can do when you just decide, I'm going to do it, irrespective of the circumstances. And that, see, the circumstances don't count when you've made a decision.
Mm.
Okay. Then the circumstances have to fall into place.
Mm.
And what tends to happen is people say, I made a decision, but then this thing came up. And when this thing came up, I couldn't do it anymore. And that's not the way to make decisions.
Mm.
Okay? Not decisions that last, that have longevity. So I'm impressed with what you brought to CCA. I'm impressed with what you're doing with your book. And I know you want to touch a lot of people. And I'm just really happy to see that.
Thank you. And I think you comment there about decisions and making decisions. It's making those decisions, isn't it, based on if it's something that you actually want to do for the right reasons, then it makes it much to me, it makes it much easier to be tenacious and persevere. If the decision was made in the wrong way, then it's much easier to not stick with it. But if you've made that decision based on something that you really want and that's important to you, then to me it's then, and again, that's what I'm saying, I'm shrugging my shoulders like it's nothing, but it's just like, all the way through, there's times when I thought, if I don't write this book, it doesn't affect anybody, but I'm like, but it affects me if I don't finish this book. I'm going to finish this.
But as we teach, know yourself, know your enemy. You can fight 100 battles without peril. Okay.
Yeah.
But you talked about it doesn't affect anyone but me. And there, you're not giving yourself the maximum credit, because you, even as humble as you are and as understated as you can be, you know that when you talk, you hold an audience.
Mm.
And you've always held an audience. And now it used to be one to a small group or one to one. Now it's one to many. And we have to applaud you for this book, for putting your life into print and to engage people where they live, irrespective whether it's the UK or over here in the United States. So I just thank you for being in the cohort, starting me in the cohort, and helping me understand how powerful one voice, how powerful one person's experience can be in the grand scheme of things. So,
well, hopefully you haven't read the book yet, so hopefully you'll still feel that way when you eventually read it. And I know the review. I'm delighted that it's so lovely, and the reviews that are coming in, and some of the people that have read it who know me. It's almost worse having people that know you read it than complete strangers read it, because that's kind of, particularly people have been on some of the journey with you. So it's a very strange feeling putting something out there that's so personal, but it's incredibly rewarding getting back the feedback that I have, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say about it.
Well, I look forward to getting in and reading it. I thought I was going to get a galley copy or something, but I guess I didn't qualify.
Well, yeah, no, it's on its. That's in
okay.
progress. I don't have a copy of it yet either. So
it's being sold. It's being sold in the US on Amazon. Okay.
Yeah.
And where else is it being sold?
So it's on Amazon, and it's in the US, Canada, and then it's also available as an ebook on some of the other platforms. I need to go through the full list of it, Barnes and Noble and a few others. But the only paperback copy at the moment is, because I've self-published, is through Amazon. But I don't have a physical copy yet either. So when I get one, Randy, you'll get one.
That's like you. That's like you. Taking off before the plane is even built. But appreciate being here today. I'm going to take off and do some work, but I thank you for having me.
Thank you ever so much, Randy. You take care.
Okay.